Hello students, welcome back in DSCJ Home Classes, a digital initiative by Directorate of School Education, Jammu. Students, in this session, we are going to study a beautiful poem of class 8th, Prayer for Strength. This poem is written by Shri Ravindranath Tagore. This poem is taken from the 36th song of Gitanjali, a collection of poems written by Shri Ravindranath Tagore. So first of all, let us discuss about the poet of this beautiful poem. Ravindranath Tagore was a Bengali polymath. He was a poet, writer, composer, philosopher, and a painter. He reshaped Bengali literature and music, as well as Indian art with contextual modernism in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. In 1913, he became the first non-European as well as the first lyricist to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. He was the first Indian to win the Nobel Prize. Some of his notable works are Gitanjali, a collection of poems, Jan Gan Man, national anthem of our country, Ravindra Sangeet, Amar Sonar Bangla, the national anthem of Bangladesh. So these are some of the notable works of Shri Ravindranath Tagore. So let's see the introduction of this beautiful poem. Prayer for Strength is an inspirational poem by the versatile Ravindranath Tagore. The poem begins with the poet asking Lord to strike at the very poverty in his heart. He is asking his God to provide him strength so that he can lightly bear the joys and sorrows of his life and not carried away with it. So, students, in this poem, the poet is talking about spiritual strength that will enable him to bear his joy and sorrows without any sort of complaining. He is praying God to drive all the weakness from his soul. The poet wants to surrender himself completely to God with all love. Now, let us discuss the lines of this poem. This is my prayer to thee, my Lord. Strike, strike at the root of penury in my heart. Give me strength lightly to bear my joys and sorrows. Give me strength to make my love fruitful in service. So, first of all, let us discuss the difficult words in these lines. Thee means you. It was ancient way to speak you in plural. We were used to call in our Greek or Latin words thee as you. Strike mean to hit forcibly. Penury means extreme poverty or very poor. Bear mean to carry. Strength means power. And fruitful mean which produce some result mean producing a result. So in this line, poet is praying God, praying you. You here, thee here is a God. So poet is praying God to strike. Where to strike? At my poverty, that is my narrow-mindedness in my heart. I mean, I should have broad thinking. My heart should be you can say that my heart should be filled with love. So he is requesting God, he is praying God to strike at his poverty, narrow-mindedness in his heart. Means poet is requesting God to wake him from his poverty of heart and give him strength to bear joy and sorrow without complaining. Mean neither he should too happy regarding his whenever he is joyful, and neither he should be very much stressed during his sorrows. Mean he should bear joy and sorrow without any complaining. He is also requesting God to give him strength to serve mankind, and his service should be fruitful to the whole mankind. He is requesting God that give him strength so that he should serve the whole kind without any ulterior motive, without any personal motive. He wants to serve the mankind, and for this he needs strength, and he is requesting God to give him strength so that his service should be fruitful to the whole mankind. Give me strength never to disown the poor or bend my knees before insolent might. Give me the strength to raise my mind high above daily trifles, and give me the strength to thy will with love. So in these lines, disown mean to refuse to maintain any connection with. Mean you are simply refusing that I don't have any connection with that person. Insolent here mean rude, arrogant, cruel. Might mean strength. Trifle mean things of little value. Surrender means to give up, and will mean desire. So here in these lines, the poet is requesting that he should never leave the poor. He is requesting God to give him strength that he should never surrender to cruel and arrogant mighty person. The poet is requesting God that he give him strength, that he should surrender only to the supremacy of God. The poet is saying that the poor too are children of God. They are our fellow beings. So we should never disown them and be kind towards them. In second line, the poet wants to enable his soul with love, passion, and obedience. He needs to strengthen his heart, so he wants to raise his mind above all unimportant things which are of little value. And in last lines, the poet is saying that man's desire don't let him live according to God's will. They make him weak by heart. So the poet asks God to give him strength to surrender before God's will. So I think these all lines are clear to you. Here I have explained the meaning of each and every line. So this is all about this beautiful poem, Prayer for Strength. So from this you can conclude that here in this poem, the poet is talking about spiritual strength that will enable to bear his joy and sorrows with any sort of complaining. The poet wants to surrender himself completely to God with all his love. Now, Let us discuss the summary of this poem. Prayer for Strength is an inspirational poem by the versatile Ravindranath Tagore. The poem is in a form of a prayer, and the poet is asking the Lord to provide him with strength so that he can overcome all the hurdles in life, so that he could overcome all the difficulties in life. The poem begins with the poet asking Lord to strike at the very poverty in his heart. He is asking his God to provide him strength so that he can lightly bear the joys and sorrows of life and not get carried away with it. Moreover, he wants strength so that his love can be fruitful in service. The poet then asks for the strength so that he never disowns the poor or bend before obnoxious minds, mean bend before the cruel persons. He asks for the strength to raise his mind from above daily trifles and finally asks for the strength to surrender himself completely to God's will with love. So, this is the summary of this beautiful poem, Prayer for Strength, written by versatile Ravindranath Tagore. Now, let us discuss the textual questions of this poem. The very first question is, why does the poet want God to strike at his heart? The poet implores God, requests God to strike at his heart to remove the hard hatedness, mean to remove the hatedness and remake it with love and compassion. He is requesting God to fill his heart with love and compassion. He is requesting God to remove all the hatedness from his heart. He wants to be a loving and caring human being. Second question is, what does the poet want the strength for? In this poem, the poet wants strength to bear joys and sorrows without any complaining. He wants strength to make his love fruitful in service. He needs strength never to disown the poor or bow before a tyrant. Moreover, the poet needs strength to avoid the daily trifles and submit his will to the will of God. Third question is, how can love be made meaningful in one's life? So, love is meaningful when it bears fruits of service, service of mankind. The next question is, what should be our attitude towards the poor? So, our attitude towards the poor should be very sympathetic. We should never disown or neglect them. We should always helpful the poor and work for their welfare. Next one is, what does bend my knees signify? So what does these mean signify in this poem? The bending of one's knees mean to surrender before a powerful person. But here the poet prays to God to give him the strength to resist and not to bend the knees before a tyrant. So here the poet wants to surrender himself only to the supremacy of God. So he does not want to bend the knees before a arrogant, a cruel person. Why does the poet want to raise his mind high above daily trifles? The poet wants to raise his mind high above the daily trifles so that he would not be involved in the issues that fill one's heart with malice and prejudice. Why does the poet ask for strength to surrender his will to God's will? The poet wants to surrender his will to the will of God in order to live a pure and obedient life. As it not easy to submit one's will, the poet prays for strength to do so. So students, I think each and every part of poem is clear to you. So from this poem, we learn that we all should pray God to give us strength to surrender our will to God's love. We should always be helpful to others. We should never be cruel to anyone. We should always be sympathetic to poor. We should surrender only to supremacy of God. So remember one thing, we will be happy only when we surrender our will to God's will. So students, I think these question answers and summary is clear to you. So as I used to say again and again, I will say you are advised to note all these questions and answers along with this summary of poem on your notebooks and learn them. Very soon I will meet with you with the new topic. Till then, thank you. Stay home, stay safe.